say one, listen and learn. There's so much material available on podcasts, on videos that you can watch, even on social media. So learn, and then building a network. I think it's the focus on creating not just that one big hero idea, but creating many pieces of content to sort of resonate with different audiences. And I think Gary's whole philosophy on marketing is so different from that sort of traditional mindset. It was, that moving fast hustle culture, but also that really empathetic culture. We split things. We really built something from nothing, which we're really proud of. All of our brands are Asian brands.
Hello audience, today I have Avery with us. So she's an ex-Googler with a passion for digital marketing. She is currently leading the expansion of VaynerMedia in the Asia Pacific region. Hi Avery, we are so excited to have you.
Yeah, so excited to be here. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
So how's the lockdown treating you? How's it in Singapore?
Hanging in here in Singapore, we are officially coming out of our lockdown, which we call the circuit breaker here. So excited to be getting a taste of freedom, but also, wanting to keep safe, hope everybody is keeping safe and healthy.
Right. So how you adapted now? What are the measures you're taking now that you're going out?
Yeah, one thing that we've taken really seriously at our office is really like a almost permanent work from home policy, and for the foreseeable future, to make sure everybody is, taking care of themselves and staying healthy first and foremost. We've really adapted our work culture. We were definitely a place that most folks came into the office, but we've really become a work from home shop. On my personal level, of course, hoping everyone is staying safe and healthy, and it's awful how many people have sort of been suffering in this pandemic. But we are, my family and I are also being as cautious as we can, staying inside as much as possible, and just hoping to really get to zero and flatten the curve.
Okay, so I usually start the question with this podcast because this is my favorite to know about people, that how was their childhood and what were their aspirations as a child?
Oh, that's a great question. I had a pretty happy childhood. I actually grew up in Tennessee in the United States, so in the southeast part of the US. And my aspiration as a child, I always wanted to be a lawyer. I don't know where that kind of came from or where it went to, but it never ended up happening. I was always sort of academically inclined. I loved school. I loved playing sports, all of that fun stuff that kids love doing. I wanted to be a lawyer. Even one year I dressed up as a lawyer for Halloween. That never ended up happening, but I guess it sort of parlayed into business in some form or fashion.
Did you see someone becoming a lawyer and then you get you got all motivated and stuff? So where did you get that from?
I don't know. Maybe it was Law and Order or something like that. I actually didn't really know a lot of lawyers growing up. I don't know where I came up with that, but it was something I knew I wanted to have sort of a professional services career from a young age. And thought at the time I wanted to be a lawyer. I was, used to do mock trial and debate and all of that great stuff, which has come in handy in a different life for sort of persuasive arguments, I assume.
So how was college life for you? And what were your expectations from the college degree?
Yeah, I went to college in San Diego, California, which is a really wonderful beach city where I learned about business and about marketing, international relations, all three things that, while not super directly related to my career, from a tactical perspective, really helped shape my thinking, get me interested in living abroad, and also helped me understand sort of the fundamentals of business. So that was something that really helped educate me. And, at the university level, I was also fortunate enough to live in Europe for a short time, practice my French a bit, which is a little rusty these days. But during my college years, I really started to learn the fundamentals of business and marketing.
Okay. And what were your expectations from the college degree? What was the ideal internship or job you wanted to land at?
Yeah, when I was in college, I had a couple of different internships. One was in finance. I had an internship with Morgan Stanley. And I also had an internship with Live Nation, which was like a concert, ticketing platform. Both of those were great for very different reasons. At Morgan Stanley, I learned I definitely didn't want to be in a place that was quite as formal as that. I think I understood quickly I didn't want to wear a suit every day to work, but I loved the sort of fast-paced nature of Live Nation. I learned a lot about events and sort of the event marketing strategy, which in some ways sort of informed my later decision to move into marketing.
Okay. And what is that one lesson that college taught you?
Take advantage of opportunities. I think I went into college sort of assuming that there would be a very clear career path, coming right out of it. And the reality is that for so many people, the career path is not linear. It's actually quite curvy. And those experiences at Morgan Stanley and at Live Nation ultimately informed me in different ways beyond sort of what I intended. My first job out of college, I actually worked at Target Corporate in a sort of management role. They have this big kind of training program. And that was like my dream job at the time. And I thought it'd be so amazing and great. And, after a few years, I actually ended up leaving from there and moved to Google in San Francisco. But I think the biggest lesson that college taught me is really take advantage of opportunities because you don't know where they're going to land you.
Okay. So now we know you were an ex-Googler. So how did you land at Google? And because it's a dream for many of us to be at Google and be at that place. How did you make that happen for you?
Google is such a dream company and it is
Right.
an amazing place to work. They do such a great job of kind of, taking care of their employees. I landed a job there. Actually, I had a friend who was a lawyer, who is a lawyer, who was working at Google. And she actually referred me to Google. And then I, went to the campus for the first time and I was just super impressed. It's everything everyone tells you and more. I was fortunate enough to get a job there and actually stayed at Google for 6 years, which was wonderful. I got to work in Mountain View at their headquarters. I'm in San Francisco, in New York. Just a really amazing company. It was a dream come true. I learned so much, got to work with such smart people on a great product and a really strong business. And ultimately at Google, that's actually how I found my current company, VaynerMedia.
Okay, so what was your role at Google? And also, can you tell us about the employee environment over there?
Pardon me?
The environment
Sure.
Yeah.
So I started at Google as an account manager on the AdWords team, which is the search product. That was in 2012 when it was still a really, really high growth business, still pretty new, not that many advertisers were using AdWords. So I started working at Google in 2012, working on AdWords. And then from there, I pivoted to working on the YouTube agency team. This was about 2014 or 15 when YouTube was also kind of just picking up in terms of adoption. It was the place where the world went to watch, but from an ad perspective, it was still a place where there's a lot of development going on as people kind of shifted from watching TV to watching digital television and things like YouTube. Then I actually did some time on the Google marketing team where I was fortunate enough to be able to work on Google marketing campaigns for their hardware business. And last but not least, I moved to the DoubleClick team, which DoubleClick is an acquisition from Google. It's now called Google Marketing Platform, the more programmatic side of things, where I worked on building out their channel reseller ecosystem. So many different teams, many different products, and such a wide variety of experiences. I think the environment at Google did vary a bit team to team, but overall, it's an incredibly supportive place where you're really encouraged to bring yourself to work. The people at Google are just so smart and talented, just really an incredibly high caliber. And the product is also just so great, right? You have some of the brightest people in the world working on building these products. And I loved working at Google because our products really do change the world.
You majored in business and finance, right?
So I actually majored in English literature.
Okay. So how did that interest shift from literature and all the things you majored in and to digital marketing? Like, was there any specific point you realized that digital marketing is made for me?
Yeah. So I majored in English literature, but I did study communications and I did study international relations as my two minors. And I think I got interested in it because even when I was in college, I was on the Associated Students team and I was like the head of communications. So I was interested in communicating to people. And I think that you can do that in different ways, whether it's through marketing or whether it's through writing. So both of those two things, I think actually do come together. And that's kind of how I got interested in it.
Okay, so for those who do not know, can you elaborate digital marketing in a 1 or 2 line sentence?
Sure. Digital marketing is changing hearts and minds through content created and distributed for and through digital media, things like search advertising, content advertising, social media marketing. All of that great stuff is really, sort of comprises digital marketing.
Okay, so before we come to talk about your experience with VaynerMedia, I want to know what is that one thing that drives you every morning?
Desire to be better than the day before. And these days, my team and my clients, as I built up this business, it's, I'm more and more motivated by the people that I'm working for, meaning my team and our partners, and motivated to do good work, do better than what we did yesterday.
Okay, and what is your typical morning routine these days?
These days, I have a dog, so I usually take my dog out in the mornings, maybe go for a run, have a coffee with my husband, and then, get started around 9 a.m.
Okay, so now let's talk about your experience with VaynerMedia. How did you land there?
I actually started at VaynerMedia a couple of years, just over 2 years ago. I started after meeting Gary at a Google event, and the chief media officer, Jeff Nicholson, recruited me for a couple of years to join Vayner. We got to know each other, when I was at Google and he was at Vayner, kind of building out the media team. We kind of became friendly. He actually was very close friends with one of my bosses at the time. So that's how I got to know them. And I really was interested in Vayner and how they were doing things differently in such a sea of sameness for so many agencies. I was like, wow, Vayner's really doing something different and doing something cool. So I wanted to be a part of it, and they wanted to get someone with sort of my experience on board. So yeah, I made the jump in January of 2018.
Okay, so what is that? What are those things that Vayner is doing differently that made you very interested in VaynerMedia?
I think it's the focus on creating not just that one big hero idea, but creating many pieces of content to sort of resonate with different audiences. It's a belief that the core of social media marketing, or the core of your marketing campaigns, can come from social and digital, and that they're really important. And I think Gary's whole philosophy on marketing is so different from that sort of traditional mindset. It was, that moving fast hustle culture, but also that really empathetic culture. We like to say that we're the honey empire, 51% honey and 49% empire, because, those are the two things that really define our agency.
I'm sure you must have had experience like being interviewed at different big corporates. So what are the criteria, like list any 4 or 5 which any company with any corporate would see before hiring a employee?
I think that there's a combination of things that people look for. One, aptitude, right? Like, what's your innate aptitude? Two, your experience level. That always matters, particularly at big corporates, a little bit less so at small places like Vayner. Then your attitude. I always say, like, aptitude and attitude are the two things that often matter the most to us. It's like, can you learn it? And do you have a good attitude? Do you want to learn it? Experience for us, is something that can be taught. I think that attitude can't really be taught. So, we look for people who really want to do good work, who are self-starters, who are motivated, and also who aren't afraid of a challenge, particularly in a very small shop like we are now, still being, under 100 people in Singapore. We really need people who can lean in and can take chances and, aren't afraid to try things.
So that is very well put. The pointers are amazing. So also I want to ask you that, was there any hesitation in your mind when you left Google? Like, Google is such a big name and a big industry basically. So, and when you left Google and you joined VaynerMedia?
Definitely. Everyone looked at me like, you're crazy. You're going from Google, the best place to work in the world, to an ad agency that no one's heard of. And, for me, of course, there was a little bit of, doubt. Is it the right thing to do? I'm leaving my cushy job here. But, my managers and mentors at Google were so kind. They're like, you can always come back. You can always come home. If this doesn't work out, you always have a job at Google. And that was a really nice sort of reassurance for me that I could always return back. And who knows, maybe at some point I will. But for now, working at Vayner and working at a smaller shop has given me and afforded me these opportunities to try totally new things, go way out of my comfort zone, really given me a lot of leash to experiment with new ways of working and thinking that, I wouldn't have had the chance to do working in a big company.
Okay. So you told us you grew up in the US, right? So when did you shift to Singapore? Like, was it when you decided to work with Vayner, or was it before that?
I first visited Singapore in 2017, and I actually moved here in 2019, July of 2019, so just under a year ago.
Okay. So was it particularly for Vayner or just for your career?
For Vayner, yes.
Okay. So which position did you join Vayner as? Was it the head of the Asia Pacific region, or is it now you're head of the Asia Pacific region?
Yeah, I joined as the vice president of global media in New York, and then when I moved here, I became the head of the APAC region.
Okay. So can you tell us about the environment at VaynerMedia?
Sure. Well, of course I'm biased because I think it's amazing. But I think I'll let the numbers speak for themselves, right? So since we started in July of 2019, everyone who's passed their confirmation is still with us. So it's 100% of retention for confirmed employees, which is pretty unheard of, especially when we're at, over 60 people. That's something that we're really proud of. I think, we think about our business in three facets. One is the people, which is our number one priority. Second is the product, the work that we do. And third is the profits. We really do think about it in that order. And from a prioritization standpoint, that's what matters most. Having the best and brightest people who can really think differently has propelled us to be able to deliver great work, which has propelled us to be able to run a sustainable business. And that's the sort of hierarchy of how we prioritize as a leadership team. I think that the culture is really fun. Everyone's really young. Everyone loves to hustle. Everyone's down to try new things. And we've really built something from nothing, which we're really proud of. All of our clients are Asian brands. We onboarded, we won all of them, onboarded all of them by ourselves as our kind of little APAC team. So everyone has a real sense of pride in that. Everyone is a little family.
Okay. So can you summarize for us the work that VaynerMedia does?
We are a marketing engine with social at our core. So we do everything from strategy to creative, to content, media, analytics, influencers, really full funnel.
Okay. So back when you joined VaynerMedia before 2 years, so what is the growth, like how do you see the growth chart going for VaynerMedia?
Yeah, the growth trajectory for VaynerMedia, I think that the reason we opened up this APAC office is we really wanted to become a global shop. We were ready to take on some global work, and I think that will start to happen. I think our trajectories were really just getting started. A lot of the foundational work that's been laid over the past year or so has really put us in a great position to be able to do some amazing stuff. And I think you'll see our, VaynerMedia is that little agency that no one's heard of, but it's coming for the big boys in a big way.
Right. So which all countries are you currently functioning in, specifically in Asia?
So we run media, we do creative for all over Asia, whether that's China, Japan, South Korea, India, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, all of that great stuff. We actually only have a physical presence here in Singapore, and that's our plan for the foreseeable future.
Okay, so what factors?
But Vayner
please.
Vayner offices are in Singapore, London, New York, Toronto, and Los Angeles.
Okay, so what factors do you consider before setting up an office in any of these countries?
I think we think about our opportunity and the team that we'll be able to build there. So for now, just given what's happening with the pandemic situation, we're not going to be opening up an office at least for the next year.
Right. So
at least in Asia, maybe elsewhere.
Okay, so where does VaynerMedia see an opportunity amidst the pandemic and amidst the lockdown? Like, how have you molded the business according to that?
So I, hate to seem opportunistic about this in any way because it really is just absolutely horrible. But the slight silver linings in some cases have been actually as a team, we've had the opportunity to do things that I don't think we would have been able to do before. We wouldn't have gotten those at-bats and those chances. We've done, campaigns with local comedians in Singapore and, the biggest celebrities in Japan that we've shot virtually. It's really forced us to be more creative in these unprecedented times of demanded unprecedented creative solutions that I think have really been effective. So that's that's how we've kind of been pivoting. Even in the midst of this, we are growing, we are hiring new people, we are taking on more work. We've just had to really pivot on the way that we work to do so.
Right. So what would you suggest for someone? Like, what are the key components of someone looking to build network and connections?
I would say one, listen and learn. There's so much material available on podcasts, on videos that you can watch, even on social media. So learn, and then building a network, whether it's, commenting directly on posts that you think are interesting, sharing those, building your community that way, I think makes a lot of sense. Doing your own community management and building your own personal brand, I think is a great way to network. And people looking to do that, it'd be, who do you want to network with and why, and how can you provide value to them?
Okay, so what is your suggestion for someone struggling to find their way, like have tried a numerous number of things, and basically they are searching for what works perfect for them?
Yeah, I actually do have to hop because it's 5:30, but I'll answer this last question. I think my advice would be, don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to go off in a different direction. If you don't know exactly what you want to do, it's never too early or it's never too late to figure it out. And the only way that you really determine that path is through your own experiences. So take the chance to take those opportunities, whether it's you investing your personal time to upskill yourself, or you studying up on something. Look into what makes the most sense. Be willing to be a sponge, absorb as much information as you can, take all the opportunities that you can, and you'll find your way. There is no one right way to do anything.
Okay, so just one last question for you. How does someone reach out to VaynerMedia or to you?
Yeah, Singapore at VaynerMedia.com is the best place for anything from me. And then VaynerMedia, follow us on social media, check us out, follow us on LinkedIn, comment, tell us what you think. We are pretty active in managing our community, so we'd love to hear from you guys.
Thank you so much, Avery, for giving us the time.
Of course, thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yeah, have a great day.
Take care, bye.
Bye.